Today, we're diving into the pretty provocative story of Leah Keith. Now, for 20 years, she was a committed, strict vegan, and she was driven by this powerful idea that she could help save the world. But that journey took a turn, and it led her to a conclusion about health and diet that completely flipped her worldview on its head. So let's just start with this statement from Keith herself. It's pretty shocking, right? This claim just flies in the face of everything veganism stands for, and it's really the key to understanding her incredible change of heart. And that really raises the big question here. I mean, how does a diet that's all about peace and compassion lead someone to say something like that? Her personal story really forces us to take a hard look at what we believe about the food on our plates. To really get what happened, we have to go back to the beginning. Back to the passionate ideals that made her go vegan when she was just 16 years old. You see, for Keith, this was never just about what she ate. She was all in. She truly believed veganism was the answer to, well, to everything. It was this moral, ethical, and environmental solution that could fix the world's biggest problems. And you can hear that conviction in her own words. There's just this total certainty, In her mind, how could a diet based on such beautiful values possibly lead to anything bad, especially for her own body? But that certainty was about to slam head-on into a very different reality. Her idealism was about to be tested in a huge way as her health started to go downhill in this really mysterious and, frankly, devastating way. The timeline here is pretty stark. Just 1 year after she started the diet, her period stopped. A year after that, at only 18 years old, she started having this debilitating back pain. And that was just the start of a health crisis that would go on for 2 decades. And then came the diagnosis. This was a huge blow. I mean, think about it. A healthy teenager doesn't just get degenerating spinal discs out of nowhere. There was no accident, no injury. Her doctors were completely stumped. It was the first real clue that something was deeply, systemically wrong. And the problems just kept piling on. Over the next 20 years, she developed this whole cascade of issues, and she now points to her vegan diet, specifically the nutritional gaps, as the root cause for all of it. The impact this had on her life was just immense. We're not talking about a little ache here. This was a kind of pain so extreme that it basically trapped her on her couch. Even just riding in a car became an ordeal. So her health was just collapsing, and that forced her to question absolutely everything. In her search for what was going on, she started looking critically at the very foundation of a vegan diet, agriculture itself. This led her to develop this concept she calls biotic cleansing. The way she explains it, to grow crops like wheat or corn, you first have to completely destroy the entire living ecosystem that's already there, from the tiniest bacteria in the soil to the animals living on the land. And that led her to uncover what she calls the hidden death toll of a plant-based diet. A source she cites claims that for every single acre of grain that's harvested, the machinery kills up to 1,000 small animals. We're talking mice, rabbits, birds, anything living in those fields. So she draws this really important line between two different systems. She argues that agriculture basically depends on keeping the soil in a constant state of emergency, bare and plowed, so these emergency responder annual plants can grow. And to do that, you have to destroy the stable soil-building systems like forests and grasslands that nature wants to put there. The consequence of all this, she claims, is just staggering. She connects that process of clearing land for agriculture directly to habitat loss, which she says is the #1 driver of mass extinction, a process she claims is wiping out as many as 200 species every single day. So this new, dark understanding of agriculture, plus her own health crisis, led her to look at nutrition from a completely different angle, an angle that would point her towards an ancestral diet and, eventually, her recovery. Her research led her to a pretty stark nutritional reality check. She concluded that some nutrients absolutely essential for human health are either only found in animal foods or the versions found in plants are in a form our bodies just can't use very well. And in her view, these aren't just minor details, they're non-negotiable.
She argues that without things like animal-based cholesterol, heme iron, and B12, our most fundamental systems, from our hormones to our immune system, even the physical structure of our brain, they just start to fall apart.
And this all brings her to her final conclusion about what humans are meant to eat. She came to believe that we have this deep, instinctual, evolutionary craving for meat because, well, that's the food that gives us these crucial nutrients in the exact form our bodies need. So, after all that, what do we take away from her incredible and, yes, controversial story? It really all comes down to a clear and powerful transformation. Her story really follows this dramatic arc, doesn't it? An idealistic choice leads to 2 decades of sickness. That sickness forces her to seek out new information about nutrition, about agriculture, and that information ultimately leads to a complete 180 on her diet, and, in her telling, a full recovery. And in the end, it all comes down to this. She insists she didn't give up on her values. Instead, she argues she just found better information that led her to a profoundly different conclusion. Keith's story is a powerful reminder of just how much our food choices matter. And it really leaves us with a provocative question to chew on for ourselves. Do we have the right information to be making our own?